So yeah, man. Hey, Clifton, I know you obviously, but those are the attendees, the thousands of attendees that's gonna be watching this, over the next few months, man, because we replaying this. It's gonna be all over YouTube. Tell the world who you are, what you do, what makes you you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I am a senior creative director of an ad agency called Social SEO. They're one of the leading digital marketing agencies in the US. To give you a little snapshot, my first job was working as a sales rep at Foot Locker. So I learned how to hustle selling kits from hustling to selling media. Transitioned 2 years as a communications specialist at my university. Traveled to Korea, taught ESL in Korea for a year. Came back, had a 6 month government contract doing media for the government. From there, started just kind of taking side hustles here and there, making 150, 200 there, doing little media projects, and that kind of evolved to building my creative studio for over 10 years. Worked with brands like Microsoft, Timing, Way Better Snacks, TD Jakes. The list goes on and on. Nonprofit, profit, B2B, B2C. And then now, in my current role, I'm practically leading the creative department, leveraging creative with digital marketing to pretty much raise people brand awareness and help companies and brands get that bag.
Bag, man, get the bag and get it the right way, though. And I know you. I know, man. One thing I admire about you, man, is your morals and values, and you do good business, and you're good people. So, hey, I'm excited to get into this. I guess, my first question is this: since you are in that media, that marketing world, like, break down what is marketing, advertising, and branding. Now, are they all the same things? Are they a little different? Like, kind of just get into like what is marketing, advertising, and branding.
Totally. From a macro standpoint, they are different, but the lines could get very blurry in terms of what are you advertising? Are you advertising your brand? Are you advertising your product? Are you advertising your service? Are you advertising your value proposition? So there's so many ways to articulate how you advertise, how you market. And I think once you understand each layer to it, and I would even take a snap back, a lot of businesses don't understand that how you market doesn't really come down to a social media post or you creating a video. How you market is the customer's experience from A to Z, from the time they walk in the door to how they were greeted, from the time that they interact with you, from the time that you explain your services in great detail when they're looking at the brochure. How was the design? Was it legible? Was the aesthetics clean? Was it simple, taking me from A to Z? From there, I mean, there's so many layers in terms of how to brand and market yourself. So it doesn't really come down to just kind of one silo thing as far as social media marketing, video marketing, SEO, digital marketing. It is the totality of the full experience from A to Z. And I always tell my prospects and clients all the time is you can either get a customer or you can get a fan. The difference between a customer is this is somebody that is buying your product. The difference between having a fan, this is somebody that's going to buy your product and service, and then they're going to rave about you to their network. That is how you build a tribe of followers that, in theory, will help build the momentum that you desire to have for your company, where you practically got unlimited salespeople working on behalf of you because your brand is so sticky. So these are things in terms of building brand awareness and marketing. It comes down to how you treat that person from A to Z. And I mean, I know I'm going off a rabbit trail, but that is why it's so important to be faithful with the small things, because that customer or that one service that you thought had a low dollar amount, you don't know who they're connected to. And people don't forget that. Sometimes they really kind of put people on a pedestal. It's like, oh, this is a big ticket item as far as this account is 10,000, et cetera. This $100 account, we ain't going to really give them no love. You don't know that $100 opportunity could have been connected to somebody that had a huge influence. So that's why you always got to be on your P's and Q's, like on every opportunity, go 100 on everything.
Man, I know you played basketball back in the day. You used to be pretty good too, man. We used to have this saying called "Know Your Personnel." You don't pass the ball to a center on a fast break at the 3-point line because now they might be fumbling and stumbling all over that. So to us about that in the terms of marketing and advertising, knowing your personnel, knowing who you're
Yeah,
trying to
that is
target.
so key. Um, at the end of the day, it really comes down to being very wise and being a great steward of your money. I mean, I know this whole summit is about money, and cash is king. Really, like money is the answer to everything. And if you don't have wisdom and being a wise steward of knowing how to manage that money effectively, especially when it comes down to marketing and knowing who to market to and who's your target audience, and understanding that the territory of where that target audience is in LA is different than Atlanta and different than New York. And, so really having a deeper, I would call it a deeper dive, understanding your target market, understanding the demographic, understanding their search behavior. And that is so key why it's important to implement some digital marketing into your strategy, because numbers don't lie. You can tell me anything you want to tell me about how you're doing, but at the end of the day, when you do a deeper dive in your analytics, that is going to really reveal to you what's working and what's not working. So this is just a random example, but let's say there's a storefront and there's 1,000 people that come there every week. But out of that 1,000 people, they're maybe getting 20 sales. And then there's a whole nother storefront that's getting about 250 people a week, but they're getting 50 sales weekly. There's vanity metrics. On one side, you're looking like, man, they popping. You see all the people coming in the store, but their sales is 25 sales a week. Whereas this other storefront on the whole other side of the nation or city, they have a fraction of the audience, but their cost per customer, as far as their sale per customer, is like significantly higher. So that's why it's so important to know your numbers, because when it comes down to marketing, you really got to understand, like, what is my ROI? What is the return on investment of my ad dollars in terms of my social media advertising, my SEO, my email marketing? Do I got somebody hustling, sending out flyers? I'm paying this dude $10 a pop, $10 an hour. I mean, you really got to know the numbers, because you could be just wasting money and not knowing what is generating the highest ROI in terms of your time and your money. And if you're a small business owner, I'll just say somebody that, small business owner, that's all subjective. Like a $10 million, $20 million company that's doing that annually, they're considered small business in the context of like an Apple that's doing billions. So I would just say a company that's doing $500,000 under, in that context, you have to be very wise in how you allocate your money. And if you don't have a marketing budget, time is the other asset you got to factor. How am I allocating the right amount of time? And you don't want to be wasting time on social media marketing. You're like, yo, I got about 100 likes, but I ain't got no sales. You really got to pay attention to your numbers. Vanity metrics can be very deceiving. This example, those two storefronts, you got 1,000 people a week, 20 sales. Other bringing 250, 50 sales. In terms of net profit, that company is doing a lot better than the one that it appeared to be popping.
Man, you just dropping keys. We got people here in the physical location vibing with you too. You know what I'm saying? Them gems you are dropping. I know you're a godly man, and as you said earlier, money answers everything. And you guys, that's not a Clifton quote. That's Ecclesiastes 10:19. Look that up. That's not a Clifton Johnson quote. That is right there in the Bible. Money answers all. Ecclesiastes 10:19, right? So, hey, dropping gems, dropping keys, and all of that. So, most of our people are small business owners, right? Like you said, $500,000 in sales and under, right? And a lot of us don't have a large market budget, right? You said time is our greatest asset and all that stuff. But just also talked about the power of social media and relationships and networking. You told me that we need to be more on LinkedIn, and I've been very intentional about that. Now, somebody else said that earlier in our summit. So just talk about like some strategic things that us small business owners can do with a small budget.
Absolutely. And I'll be the first to tell you that, from a David Goliath mentality, sometimes being small has its advantage, because when you're small, you can be more adaptable quickly. You can be more agile quickly. You can be more innovative. When you're big, you got to go through like, okay, I got to go through the marketing director, and the marketing director got to submit it to the CEO. The CEO got to submit it to the board. The board got to like submit like a cast of like what we like. That could take weeks to make a decision. So when you're small, you got an advantage. You can think of an innovative idea and you can move quickly. So I am a firm believer that the highest valuation in business is two aspects. It's being a dot connector and knowing how to negotiate. Those two components in business is truly determines your value proposition. It goes beyond your hourly salary. It goes beyond who you work for and what company you work for. If you know how to be a dot connector and you know how to negotiate in regards of showcasing your value proposition and how you can add value and be a problem solver and be strategic in regards of being a viable solution and how to be a servant. I mean, I know I'm going off a rabbit trail, but when you got a go-giver mentality, that goes far, because if you're consistently planting seeds and you give in for free, it just works in your favor. Opportunities you don't have to chase opportunities. Opportunities will chase you because you just got that energy. You're just attracting so much abundance to you. So if you have that mentality in terms of being, a goal, like having a servant heart and being a go-giver, then kind of circling back in terms of how do you implement that with a social media marketing strategy? You don't need ad dollars. There's a lot of companies that grow exponentially with zero ad dollars. What they do well is knowing how to connect the dots. They know how to connect with people that have great influence in different platforms. And like I said, don't fall into the vanity metrics. You're trying to chase somebody like, I don't know, throw in all the big names, like you're trying to chase anybody from like a Jay-Z to a Beyonce to Damon. Like, it's going to be very hard to get into those circles. But if you know how to connect to the social media manager for Jay-Z, or you know how to connect to the video producer of somebody that is the marketing director of Nike, that is how you use strategy to pivot to get into those kind of circles. And circles beget circles, just like work begets work and relationship begets relationship. You got to think small. Don't try to hit the home run. People don't understand that in terms of the compound effect. That compound effect is real. You don't got to do big things, but if you do little things over time, with time, it compounds to greatness. So I always challenge myself, even in the marketing world, is how can I be better than I was yesterday? How can I do Nike now? That's been my quote. My dream has always been to be sitting across tables with the Nikes and all those big brands, like with chopping it up with LeBron James as far as what his new campaign will be, et cetera. But for me, it's taking a step back and say, how can I do that now with my little opportunity I have? And that's kind of how I've kind of grew in my journey. That $100 project, I gave it my all, and it looked like it was a $500 project. That $500 project, I gave it my all, and it looked like they paid $5,000. That $5,000, before you knew it, that's how you grow. So in terms of your social media marketing strategy, same principle. Don't try to connect the dots to these big dude honchos. Like, look for that intern, because that intern one day might be that next CEO. And that is how you strategically build strategic relationships. Because, final note, I know I'm going on the rabbit trail, but you can't judge one chapter based on how that book is going to end in somebody's life. And that's why you gotta treat everybody on an equal playing field. It is so key, because you don't know who that person's going to become. And they will remember you if you did everything you can to be a bridge to position them, to propel them to success. When they blow up, guess who they're going to remember? That dude that paid attention to me when nobody else was paying attention to me. And that is how I would say you would be a strategic dot connector.
Hey, you just dropping all type of gems. I was trying to remember everything you said because I forgot my notepad, but luckily I get to see the replay. Go back and take all these notes. But you mentioned a couple things that they talk about in books, compound effect. If you guys have not read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, that is a gem. That was like my first book, like in entrepreneurship and just thinking about the long term. And then you were talking about being a dot connector, the tipping point. The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell talks about your dot connectors and all of that. So I'm going to pivot a little bit because I read a couple articles of yours and you were talking about like the emotional part, right? The emotional part of connecting with people, right? And your branding and your marketing and things of that nature, EQ, IQ, all of that. So just kind of talk about a little bit about that, about reaching your customer, your consumer base.
No, totally.
Emotion.
So psychologically, especially in regards of video marketing, it's just like when you're watching TV, you're watching some TV ads and then something just holds your attention. And it just resonates and just cuts through the distractions. You're like, whoa, rewind. That was fire. I got to go back to that. There's a psychological approach in terms of tapping into your consumer psyche in regards to what their pain points are. And once you understand their pain points, you're able to, in theory, create a bridge articulating your solution that you can provide for their problem. And this really comes down to what we call the brand story. If you develop a brand story, then what this inherently is going to do is get you to a position of brand recognition. So what's brand recognition? Brand recognition is if I say, what are the two top brands for computer? You immediately would think about Apple, Microsoft. If I said men's shaving, Gillette. If I think about what's a luxury car, Mercedes, BMW. These were brands that developed a brand story for decades. So when you were that little kid watching that TV ad of that Mercedes ad, or you picked up that magazine in Ebony and you saw that Mercedes print ad, there was a marketing team that literally reverse engineered down to the cost per acquisition of what it would cost to get your attention as a little child, so that when you grew up and had a career one day and you went on that car lot, what would you choose? Mercedes. Or what computer would you buy? Apple or Microsoft. So these are things that, from a psychological standpoint, when you understand how the mind works in terms of connecting to your consumer on an emotional level, that's clever advertising. You see it all the time. Like what Kaepernick's ad campaign that Nike threw out with, that was very calculated. They knew it was going to create, like the stir in media. Like that was all a part of the marketing. I can promise you, before a dime was spent on that campaign, the marketing team reverse engineered the cost per acquisition, the risk factor, how much money they would lose temporarily. But just like if you went to the stock market game, it goes up and down. But if it trends up, you're going to make money. So Nike made that choice. They made a calculated move. They put out the Kaepernick campaign. They already knew short term they might lose a little valuation in their stock. But if you bought stock in Nike, I promise you, you probably grew it at 2-3x fold from that time they released that ad. So these are things that are literally from a analytical perspective, developing a brand story. This is how you make your brand very contagious in understanding what is the solution that I bring. Why does my product and service exist? You got to understand, it's not about money. Money is the output. Money is the ripple effect. Your brand exists for a reason. There is somebody in need. There is somebody that has a problem. And your product or service is supposed to provide a solution. If you can master the art of telling a story of why your solution is better than your competitor, that is how you're going to stay relevant despite how everything changes in the marketplace.
That mastering the art of telling your story. Like Jesus was a storyteller. He was speaking in parables to people, and it was. And that's why you can get certain things, because he's parable of the talents, for instance, and things of that nature. So speaking a story and telling your story is so important. I was reading an article about a guy who I can't remember his name, popular advertising company. He fired himself from his own company because he came out with a Motel. He was doing a Motel 6 ad, and he said it was too black. And he wanted it to say, and he said, hey, we want to appeal to the white nationalists as well. They buy hotel rooms as well. So talk about that whole dynamic when you're creating this marketing and advertising, being offensive to another group of people, and how that hurts or helps the company's bottom line ultimately. Like, we keys to black wealth, and I've got questions a couple times, like, why is it keys to all wealth, or why isn't it, things of that nature? So just kind of talk about, like, that fine line.
In terms of your market messaging to one demographic over another, or what do you mean? Sorry, I just want to make sure I understand the question.
Not maybe thinking like, I don't want to offend one group of people because I might lose out on money. Just kind of that balance between, having a target market, but also target audience, but also not offending or losing money because maybe you offended another.
Got it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, and this is just my subjective opinion, you got to stay true to you. You ultimately got to stay true to you. When whatever that is, that's what it is. If your demographic is the African American community, to be all in. If your demographic is for, different demographics, be all in. But in context of answering your question specifically, you gotta understand, man, at the end of the day, you're either going to pursue purpose or you're going to pursue money. So in answering that question in terms of purpose, whatever is the God-given purpose that he's given you to do, who cares about the noise? If your focus is supposed to be African American specifically, and you're supposed to give back to our community, that's what it is. That's just what it is. Facts. Now, if your agenda is money, then be smart. Why do you think when you watch BET, most of the demographic in the commercial ads you see is African American? And if you flip on HGTV, you might see a Latino couple that's in Caucasian. Same message, same Happy Meal advertising, but the approach was totally different based on the platform that the ad was running on. So on a high level, if you're pursuing purpose, stay true to you. If you're pursuing money, just be tactical, be smart. As far as if your concern is money, like we might lose money, but if you're pursuing purpose, I always say purpose prevails. Purpose always prevails. So at the end of the day, even if you get a little negative feedback, if your heart, it's always about the heart of the matter. As long as the intent is there and it's righteous, it doesn't matter. If anything, it's going to foster those conversations that need to happen. So that's just, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's just kind of my feedback.
Wow, that's perfect. I mean, I walk into Target and I walk into Walmart. It's a completely different vibe in Target and Walmart, right? I go to Chick-fil-A, I don't see them apologizing for not serving beef, right? They like, hey, serving chicken, eat more chicken, right? So I love the fact that you said you gotta be true to yourself, and you got a target market, target audience, focus on that and do it at a high level, right? In a high scope, right? So just let's switch a little bit, because you've been an entrepreneur and a business owner. That's not, and you are, that's not an easy thing, right? So talk to us about your entrepreneurial journey, your business on the journey, just being able to stay in business and be successful.
I mean, I tell you what, I'll be the first to tell you it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Like, I don't care the hype, all that, everybody call themselves like, oh man, I got my own business, and it's all glamorized right now. Like, I got my hustle, but they got, I won't go there. I don't want to offend you. It's just not for everybody, man. It's not, man. It's not. And, my journey, everybody's journey is different. So, everybody's path is different. For me, when I got out of college, like I said, I taught ESL in Korea, came back, got I had a contract working for the government. I was making $60K. I was 22, no kids, no what at the time, so that kind of money for, it was just stupid. The beautiful thing though, my wife Alicia, we started dating. I probably lost my job. Like, we were dating for 1 month, and I lost my job. So I kind of knew, like, all right, like this is like either real or it's a fallacy, because I'm literally at rock bottom. And she was a ride or die. That's like I know I'm going on a rabbit trail, but literally where I am today is because of my queen. So it is so pivotal to do life with somebody that you have a parallel vision. You're trying to pursue something that's great for your seeds and for their seeds. So I would even say, like, who I am today, I'm a better man because of her. So the journey is a little bit different in terms of my journey, because it was rock bottom. It was making 100 here, $150 there, doing little side projects and just stacking little by little by little. I remember April 2010, I would say. Yep, because we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. April 2010, our wedding was August 7th. So I had a couple months before our wedding, I had creditors calling me, and I felt like financially it was tough. I just prayed, I just really sought God, and it's like, if this vision is real, make a way where there's no way. And that in a couple weeks, I had a record sale month. I got like $9,000 in 1 month. You gotta understand, like, at that time I was doing like 500 here, 750 there. So out of nowhere, I did a big campaign for the senator in Colorado, and I did another campaign for this church, and I did another campaign for this product. And it was like $9,000, and from there, that's when my business started taking off. So, sometimes your vision got to be more real than your reality. And that's why I said it's not for everybody, because you got to be locked in on the vision, regardless of what you see in. You might be in the storm, but the vision got to be more real than the reality. And if the vision is more real than the reality, then the pieces will fall in place. If your hustle's right and your vision's right, and you putting together the right pieces as far as the team, you building a team of people that you can work with collectively to build that vision, then you'll go far, But let me take a step back. The motto was still stay humble, stay hungry, because I don't forget those days. I don't forget those days in 2009, 2010. And where we're at right now is, God has really blessed us. But my mindset is still as that kid that was trying to get that next project, so my back is always against the wall, even though it doesn't need to be against the wall. That's just kind of what it is. So that's kind of my 2 cents as far as my journey. Stay humble, stay hungry, despite where you are. And COVID, I tell you what, a lot of people got impacted from COVID, real talk, especially in our community. The only beautiful thing that came from it, it gave us perspective of keeping the main things, like God, your family, your health. If you got that, man, you got the world. So you just got to keep things in perspective, keep the main things. Money is just a tool. That's it. That is it. Like, at the heart of the matter, money is a tool. And if you're blessed, that means you could be a blessing to others. So keep in perspective, like, don't try to get the bag so you can get a bigger house. Don't try to get the bag so you get a nicer whip. That stuff's cool, but let that be byproduct. Like, that's just like the fruit of the work and the investment of your time. But pursue purpose, because at the end of the day, the world needs you, and you're in this world for a reason. There's a purpose that is supposed to be manifested, and if it's through your business, providing a product and a service that can add value to people, man, be all in on that, and the money will come.
Dropping on keys, man, dropping on jewels. All right, well, I have to go get business sexy for tonight for the live portion, right? You still got 15 minutes on the stage to talk about whatever's on your heart's desire. You are connected to the chat, so anybody who has a question for Clifton, drop it in the chat. marketing related, advertising, whatever's on your heart, drop it in the chat if you have a question for them. But you literally have the next 15 minutes to talk about whatever's on your heart. Make sure you do tell people where they can find you, where they can contact you, how they can get your services as well, my brother.
Totally.
All right.
Yeah, let me know any questions. I'll just see if anything pops up as far as questions. If not, I'll just go off some of my production notes I have for the presentation and try to drop some more insight that will help you guys. All right, now I see you're not coming in right now. Maybe I just dropped too many gems. Nobody don't really got questions. All right, I got a question. It says, if you are just starting a business and have a limited budget, do you spend more on branding or salesy ads? Okay, that's pretty tough. That's a pretty tough question because it's really subjective on the industry you're in. Because every industry, it's like playing chess. Like every game is going to be different. So my answer to you might be different than my answer I would give to somebody else. So I just want to kind of put that disclaimer out there. But I think it's a fine line between what your gifts are. If your gifts are sales, like meaning your strong suit is being a salesperson, you can convert a lead, then I would put my energy there because at the end of the day, sales is the bloodline of your business. So if you're starting out, whatever's going to get you ramping up your sales is key because from that vantage point, sales is the bloodline of your business. So the more sales you have, the more assets you're going to be able to utilize for other components of your business operation. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think strategically what you need to think about is, yes, is there advertising and marketing that leads to sales? Absolutely. But I would first come back to knowing what is your strong suit? Is your strength sales? If your strength is sales, then you need to be on that because the more sales you have, then you can answer all those other problems for sure. Let me go back. Fade production as a creative director. Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I have so many favorite ones. Probably my favorite nonprofit production was the work I did for TD Jakes in 2016. My favorite sports production was this sports ad I did. Favorite tutorial production was the work I did for Microsoft in 2011. It kind of goes all over the place, but I'll share my details with you and you can check out some of the work and you can make a decision for yourself. One more though, No Days Off. That was a passion project of mine. That was me just painting on a blank canvas, writing from the heart, just saying never give up on your dreams. And yeah, that's probably my favorite creative up to this point, No Days Off. All right, let me see. How do you find your market? Ooh, that's good. Okay. Well, there is a term called keyword analysis. And the answer to this question, there's so many different ways to answer this question. If you're thinking about it from a digital marketing perspective, you want to do a Google search on keyword analysis. Keyword analysis means that you are looking for the targeted keywords that and the search behavior of your target audience. So if you're selling, I don't know, something sports related in basketball, doing a keyword analysis will help you define what are the top keywords that people are searching for. Once you define those top keywords that audience is searching for, then you can figure out who is the audience. Are they all on the East Coast, on the West Coast? What's the money? What's the monetary gain? Is anybody making above 100K or is it somebody making 50 to 75K? So I would do a keyword analysis for sure. And then I would figure out as far as through social media marketing, I think there's a way on the back side how you can kind of figure out categories, but there's a way you can mirror audiences as well. That question I feel like I can go a lot deeper on that answer. That might just, I might just be like, hey, hit me up on LinkedIn or something. I can go a little bit deeper. I'm getting some more questions coming in. So, talk about vision. If you are a beginner and you want to start implementing your ideas, what do you do first? Interesting. On a macro scale point, in terms of articulating vision, I would start with, what is your 1 year goal? Let's just start there. We're about to embark upon 2021. So I would start there as far as, what do I want to accomplish at the end of 2021? From there, reverse engineer by quarters, meaning you got your first quarter, which is January, February, March, second quarter, April, May, June, third quarter, so on, so on. Reverse engineer back more to where you're having monthly goals, reverse engineer to weekly goals, reverse engineer to daily goals. And in your daily goals, you want to make sure you're focusing on your critical 3 components, meaning, what are the top 3 things I need to accomplish today? Like, regardless of how the day goes, what are the top 3 things I got to accomplish today on my production schedule? And then create action plans. And when you create action plans, you're holding yourself accountable, like saying, these are the top 3 things I got to accomplish today. And what are the action plans or the to-do list to execute each one of those items? That is how I would kind of give you just a quick snapshot of executing your vision, and then measure and track your progression. After you finish your first week, how did you do? Do you have to adjust where some of those things you didn't accomplish fall back into the other week? So this will help you kind of calibrate and optimize your performance to have a high efficiency as far as getting things done. Let's see. What are some basic marketing and sales implementations all businesses should be using? That is a very broad question. But just to give you a quick nugget, if you're a solopreneur, half of your time should be on production, half of your time should be on sales. So if you're mapping out your week, I would literally make sure that half of your time is allocated for sales activity, half your time is allocated for production. The reason why you want to focus on this is because, as every solopreneur knows or entrepreneur knows, there's literally a feast or famine cycle, where when things are good, you're doing the work, you get all the work done, and then it goes down. Then it's like you're in this famine cycle. Now you're out there selling, you're selling. And then you get the work, and then you're back doing the work. And it's this constant volatile cycle. Constant. If you're disciplined with your time, then what you can do to avoid the volatile cycles is, if you stay in that 50-50 sweet spot, then you're constantly counterbalancing regardless of which way it goes higher. So if you're doing the work, you're also being mindful, I can't drop my sales activity. I got to level up. And it'll keep you being intentional with your balance, so that you're not just like constantly feast, famine. You can kind of level that out to have more of an equilibrium, so that then once it's sustainable, then you can start taking steps towards progress and growth. I don't know if that helps, but hopefully it did. I think that's all the questions I have. Yeah, I think on that note, the last thing I would tell you guys is macro patience, micro speed. Have the patience, understanding that it takes time to manifest your vision, but have the hustle where every day you're in attack mode. So that's as far as the last nugget I can give you guys. And that came from me hearing a Gainer Vantage Hut speech 7+ years ago. It really stuck with me, but it's true. Macro patience, having the patience that, accomplishing your vision takes time, but micro speed, having the hustle, being in attack mode to bring everything into fruition. See if anything else came up as far as we missing any questions. Okay, no other question came up. I maybe missed one. What about your branding or personal look and connecting it with your business brand? Hit me up on LinkedIn. I can go a little deeper on that because how you attack your company brand messaging and how you can attack your personal brand messaging. It takes a little bit of a tailored approach. There's disciplines that you can foster in both aspects. But yeah, it takes a little bit of a deeper approach that's a little bit more tailored and specific. Somebody asked me for IG. Let me get that to you right now. Give me a sec. It is, yeah, hit me up on IG. Most of my time and energy is on LinkedIn. I doubled up on LinkedIn about 2.5 years ago. And that was me seeing where conversions were. LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform when you're trying to really get conversions. From my energy, I've probably generated over $80,000 of sales from LinkedIn. So I would definitely be on LinkedIn. Other social media platforms is great as far as vanity metrics and engagement and engaging with prospects. But when you want to get in front of decision makers, you definitely want to double up and level up on LinkedIn for sure. I'd highly recommend that, especially if you're starting your own business. Any other questions? Found one takeaway: profit first. Hopefully this helped you guys as far as working on your accounting. With profit first, this is practically revenue. Typically, we know how profit works is revenue minus expenses equals profit. Having a profit first mentality is revenue minus profit equals expenses. So one, hopefully, train of thought is to allocate a percentage that you take before you spend a dime on anything else. What that's going to do is force you to be disciplined of using the remaining of that 95, 90% to use best practices for your operations. So hopefully that helps in terms of operations, etc. Profit first mentality. Take your profit first, even if it's 1%. Take that profit first, reinvest back in yourself and in your company. That's a good methodology that will help you build some sustainable growth.